And thus, if one were to wear this tourist identity as a disguise, as an incognito, then one finds oneself at great liberty to observe, to document, and to act without arousing suspicion. Now, to draw together what I said earlier in my criticism of philosophical tourism, of not living with philosophical positions, and this alternative idea of using philosophical incognitos and disguises, such as the disguise of the tourist, for examining philosophical positions critically, we can see at first glance that the relation between the two ideas is seemingly incompatible. For on the one hand, we insist upon reduplication of philosophical honesty. We insist upon doing what one says, in essence, but on the other hand, we insist upon duping, upon purposefully deceiving others in order to examine how genuine our position is. But if we look once more at these two apparently contradictory stances I have outlined, I think that it seems quite necessary to anybody deeply concerned with philosophical positions that one experiment with the idea of what honesty might mean to us, of what deception might mean to us, and moreover, of what identity might mean to us. For to be independent demands that one set oneself up against preconceptions, that one examines positions as if from all sides. And if this means that we must be both honestly deceptive and at the same time deceptively honest, then as individuals we must by default become entirely focused upon a critical individuality.
Investigators were keen to make contact with Mr. Longbridge in the hope of discovering a motive that could be pinned on Sørensen, but all such efforts proved unsuccessful. From investigations carried out by the Home Office in London, it seemed that there was no such person as Mr. Longbridge. The passports were identified as being counterfeit. In the final sequence on the tape shot prior to her decision to destroy the video archive, Madam Sørensen followed the mysterious Mr. Longbridge to the famous landmark of Longbridge. George Longbridge then subsequently disappears from the footage to be replaced by this man, Mr. Damian Drahe. Mr. Drahe had been responsible for rebuilding the bridge after its original wooden supports were burned down during World War II, and many of his innovative fireproofing developments were implemented in the design. He was also known to many residents in the local area as being a great benefactor to people who had been made homeless by fire, and had distributed to charitable causes almost all of his personal fortune amassed through the development of fire prevention technologies. But despite his enthusiasm for preventing fire, and for his charitable activities aiding the victims of fire, there was a peculiarity in his nature that people were unable to explain. After having exhausted his wealth by the mid-1970s, he had since become symbolic to local residents for spending each and every day walking backwards and forwards across the bridge from sunrise to sunset. But despite the gossip, Mr. Drahe was in such a profound state of contemplation during his walks that it was impossible to extract from him what the nature of his fixed idea was. And he was thus classified by everybody as a lunatic. In light of the Institute's examination of the video, and in a final effort to obtain the motive needed to close the case, investigating officers resolved to ask Madam Sørensen exactly which of the events that took place on the 23rd of April had caused her to set fire to her research and her house. But a message received from Vestre prison explained that during the night, and apparently without explanation, she had spontaneously combusted in her cell. The case was never resolved.